ahead.
I now call to order the regular board meeting of the Park Ridge Park District Board of Park Commissioners. It is Thursday, June 16th, 2022, and 7 p.m. Marianne, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Bendy? Here. Commissioner Bowe?
Here.
Commissioner Coyne?
Here.
Commissioner Grau?
Here.
Commissioner Hulting?
Here.
Commissioner Tunnell?
Here.
Commissioner LeDuc?
Here. Anybody have anything to amend, add, or delete to the current agenda? No. Do we have, so now we have a recognition of Park District employee, Fire Chief Jeff Sorensen.
Hi there. Good evening.
Good evening.
Oh, it is red. Good. Good evening. I'm Jeff Sorensen, Fire Chief, City of Park Ridge. I was looking up this afternoon who's on the park board. Now I remember I recognize all of you. It's good to see everybody again. We've got good news tonight, and it's not often that we hear great news stories, especially in the fire department line of work. Although I do often hear that there are great and caring and dedicated employees in the Park District. I seem to hear that a lot, and I'm glad to know that is the case. In 25 years in the city, I've been fortunate to meet and know several of the Park District employees. But as I mentioned as chief, sometimes the good news stories are hard to come by. On May 19th, 2022, we were alerted to a medical call for our Park Ridge paramedics. This call had started as what's known as a check for well-being. They promptly notified fire department personnel, including an ambulance, who responded. And what we found on arrival was a senior who had indeed fallen in her residence and was in dire need of assistance. She happened to be on the floor, injured. She was without access to a phone or any way to communicate. And she'd spent a long time on the floor, injured and definitely in peril. So stop there for a second. I'm going to be intentionally vague, if you allow me for a moment, so as to continue the story but not identify or give out any personal information for the affected party. But generally speaking, in Park Ridge, as a fire department, we'll respond to approximately 3,000 emergency calls, emergency medical calls a year. They don't all end this well. And so even talking to the shift that's on tonight, explaining to them the importance of going out and recognizing people that do things like this. And we've all been on those, and even the faces of the people working tonight, we can all remember calls that they go a whole lot worse. They go a whole lot worse way because there's just a lag time in getting help. So, as I mentioned, they don't all have good outcomes like in the case here, but in this case, indeed, if it was not for the alert actions of your staff member, a tragic outcome was certainly possible. So with that, I'd like to recognize Jennifer Myers from the Park District. And Jennifer, I don't know if you want to step on up. Very good. Jennifer was alerted by another member of the senior center that who was the another member of the senior center that the patient, the victim here, had not reported for a class. She'd not come in for a program or something to that effect. And Jennifer first called 911 and alerted responders that this indeed may be indicative of an emergency situation, someone not reporting. I will say that after all these years, even this situation made me emotional. As someone laying on the floor, injured, unable to help, I think we could all imagine the fear involved in that person. So with that, I'd like to formally recognize Jennifer Myers with this award from us at the Park Ridge Fire Department. And it reads, Certificate of Appreciation proudly presented to Jennifer Myers On behalf of the Park Ridge Fire Department, I commend you for your life-saving actions on May 9th, 2022. Oh, sure. Thank you for giving me the opportunity this evening. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing this story with us, and thank you, Jenny.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right. And now we have the opportunity for public comment on non-agenda items. Does anybody have any public comment on non-agenda items? Oh, yes, back there if you want to come up.
I'd like to request that whoever is in charge of the buildings and grounds.
Oh, yes, could you please give us your name?
Oh, my name is Lori Luckshaw.
Thank you.
Last year at the Aquatic Center, the showers were kind of cool. And it wasn't bad in weather like this, but if it's a little bit cooler and you get out of the pool, the showers were kind of chilly, where people weren't even using them. So I was hoping that whoever's in charge could address the issue.
And so you're talking about the outdoor?
The outdoor
And the water wasn't heating up? Is that
No, the shower water,
the shower water?
yes. Cool. Which pool? The Aquatic Center? the
Centennial?
Centennial.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? All right. Seeing none. We are now moving on to the Oakton Park and Facility Plan and Referendum. We'll start with the board discussion on the plan and referendum question.
Gail, are you on the call?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, did you want to start the discussion or?
No, I just think that, yeah, sure, I can go ahead. As a reminder, the board had voted and approved the referendum going on to the ballot for November 8th, and that happened in January of 2022. This is a formality, for putting, it's a resolution that you're passing, and then this gives the exact language that will go on in the resolution. There is the exact language that will go on the question for the referendum. So we need a formal vote on this evening.
All right, so with that, I'll make the motion, or, because there's also room for discussion after I make the motion. It seems like there's plenty
Yes,
of
correct.
opportunities for
Correct,
discussion
yes.
in the outline.
Right.
All right, I move to adopt Resolution 22-1, resolution providing for and requiring the submission of the proposition to issue $33,400,000 in general obligation park bonds to the voters of the Park Ridge Park District, Cook County, Illinois, at the general election to be held on the 8th day of November, 2022. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Marianne, can you do a roll call vote?
Don't we
Let's
have
have
to
discussion
Oh my
first.
God.
discussion
Sorry.
and comment?
I was all like, we have so much time to discuss, and then I was like,
And when are we doing comment from the community? At the end or after we discuss or before we?
I was gonna go after, but either is fine, if anybody has a preference.
to hear from the community before.
That's fine. All right. So do we have community members here to speak on this agenda item? All right. Start with Chris. And please start by identifying yourself, and note that comments are limited to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Chris Parson. I live at 422 Lake Avenue in Park Ridge, and I have been a resident of Park Ridge for 52 years. As always, whenever I appear in front of a elected board, I thank you for your service. It's very difficult in this, today especially, but in this town in particular, to find people to run for office who want to run and who want to do the job. And so I appreciate all of you and applaud each one of you. In all the time that I have lived here, I have always, every time a taxing body asked me to raise my taxes in order to fund some part of their program, I voted yes. Every time. I didn't count them. But in 52 years, that's a number of times. Until now. And I'm not voting no on this referendum because of the taxes, because I would be in favor of it if it was just for the taxes. Because the facility needs to be improved, and we can argue about whether we need the turf field, but the point is that I would probably be in favor of it. It's the trees. And it's a very emotional issue for me. The problem is that we simply cannot, we do not have a system for monetizing the value of a tree, of an animal, of a blade of grass, of a native plant, all the things we take for granted that keep us alive in this planet. We don't have a way to monetize them. So when it comes time to say, okay, we have this facility that will cost $33 million, $400,000, and it will produce a certain amount of revenue. Who loses? The trees, because we can't produce a monetary value for those trees. 32 trees. What if the value of each one of those trees was $100,000 over 20 years? That's $32 million. Maybe my math is wrong, but the point is we don't have a way to value those trees. And I am standing here to tell you that I value them more than this facility. I value them more than spending $33 million. I don't value them more than fixing the rink. I could even be persuaded for the studio rink. But I can't be persuaded on the turf field. I can't be persuaded on losing 32 trees. We can't compare the value of the stormwater a tree diverts. We can't compare the carbon a tree and its root system sequester. We can't compare the habitat a tree and its root system provides for millions of organisms. Millions. We're talking about millions of organisms in the soil. Just in the soil, not let alone the raccoon that lives up there. The lower blood pressure and sense of calm that a tree provides when I sit in its shade, to the dollars it will cost to take it down, the dollars it will cost to lose that tree. We have no way of knowing how many dollars we'll lose. The issue is emotional for some like me who will vote no. I don't know how many there will be, but I'm going to be talking. The uncertainty economy. This issue will be about the increasing taxes for some who will vote no. Because all of a sudden, with inflation, people are going to start to worry about increasing taxes. So I think it's an uphill battle. Thank you again for your service. This referendum is a bad deal in my view, and it saddens me to oppose it. But oppose it, I must. Thank you.
My name is Carol Becker. I live on Parkside Drive, and I have been a resident of Park Ridge since 1987. I, like Chris, thank you for your service. I know just how hard it is and how long it takes because I ran for Park Board once, and I investigated what that would be like. I also am here to speak on behalf of the trees, and I also have to tell you that I will not only vote against this ordinance, but I will organize to get others to vote against it for that reason. I am an environmentalist, but I'm not a tree hugger. I recently read in The Atlantic that there are 3 major issues facing our nation and really the world right now. One is the threat of nuclear war. Another is, in the US, the loss of our democracy. And the third is climate change. Climate change is serious. We can see the effects around us every time we have a big storm. And so, although I'm taking a helicopter view right now, I think I'm just sure that this means, well, it's caused partly by little decisions that we make that ignore the environment that add up into a lot of big effects. It isn't just our decision here this year. It's all the decisions that all the communities make and that somebody has to say no to. You know, the trees that you're talking about cutting down have value in the thousands, the hundreds of thousands of dollars. They help mitigate air pollution, they reduce temperature, and they help us avoid huge storms like we've had and the effects of climate change that are hitting us every single year now. And if we go on ignoring in little ways the effects of the loss of the natural things that will help us, we deserve what we get. And I don't want that to happen in my community. I want us to be an example, and I think we can do better. I understand the need for the Oakton facility, but I'm disappointed that in all the conversations that we've had about this over the years, that you as a board have never taken our concern about the trees seriously enough in your plan. And I hope that you can do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any public comments to share? All right, seeing none, I'll open it up for board discussion. Would anyone like to weigh in? Commissioner Bowe?
I'd just like to recap, my stance on that. All the commissioners here know how I feel about the facility. I've been involved in the Oakton Master Plan as a participant before I was elected to a commissioner. And I've been pretty consistent about my concerns about the size and scope of this project. To summarize, the extensive data that we were provided gave great insight to me as to the mindset of the Park Ridge voter. And it tells me that in order to save the 53-year-old Oakton Ice Arena, we need to make this project smaller, more focused, and less expensive in order to ensure it finally gets the much-needed renovations that it requires. With the current design, we can still reduce the project by removing the additional building and propose it at a time when there isn't so much uncertainty about the economy, excuse me, and we can include more environmentally friendly features. It's not the words in this ballot statement that I'm voting against, it's the numbers. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So I just wanted to point out to anybody that's listening or reading the minutes here later that that a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of public input went into coming up with the plan that is here. I found it somewhat off-putting, but that's not the right word, frankly insulting, that that the board, the implication that the board didn't consider the trees or the environment in these plans. We may not have weighted as heavily as other people would, but it also isn't our, in my mind, it isn't our plan. it's the people's plan. We put a task force together, and people came together and they picked from a number of different options, and this is the option that they had. We've gone down this road for several years, and in my opinion, it's time to put it on the ballot and let the people decide if they think it's the right thing to do. To scrap it now would be to undo the desire of very, very many people that worked hard to try to come up with a plan that does save trees, does provide a renovated ice arena, does provide a turf field, does provide, well, all the other amenities that are being put into that plan that the people all over the city voted, or not voted for, but answered surveys for and said, this is what we should do. So this was their wish list. We met the wish list. Then a task force went and picked out one of, I can't even remember how many different plans, 11? At least, plans. And at this point, I appreciate that people don't like the plan, won't support the plan, but we have gone far enough down the road now that we need to put it out to the voters and let them decide whether this is the right plan. Thank you.
So I wasn't planning on talking very much tonight, but I have utmost respect for Carol and Chris. I've been accused of not being an environmentalist because I was in support of this plan, and I have been working at the US EPA for 22 years, and I'm getting emotional because I take this very seriously. I have been working on climate change at the US EPA since 2007. I've worked with companies to lower their carbon footprint, including huge industrial companies that can make huge actions to reduce greenhouse gases by probably millions of times what these trees sequester combined. So I look at everything from a very systems perspective. Carol really sparked something in me when she talked about many small decisions add up and have an impact, because that's exactly it. Many small decisions we have across the district can have an impact. We can plant additional trees. Terry, Superintendent Wolf, I would say, is passionate about the environment, is invested in renewables, is invested in pursuing, hybrid and electric vehicles, is invested in energy efficiency across our facilities, is invested in, natural landscapes that provide ecosystem services across the district. And it's not just Terry, it's other folks. I feel that support from everyone on staff. And I feel that support from everyone on the board. So, I did undergraduate research on tree fragments, tree-leased woods near Champaign, Illinois. My first research project was on a forest that had been severely fragmented because of agriculture. I love trees. It's how I became an environmentalist, because I walked through the forest with my grandfather. So I care about the trees. But I want to look at our environmental impact across the district, and we also have to balance the needs of our community. And our community has told us that they would like an indoor facility. We all make decisions about sustainability in our own lives. Commissioner LeDuc doesn't eat meat. Many of us, myself included, I do eat meat, and that has a huge impact on my carbon footprint. And if I was maybe a better human, I would stop eating meat, but I like it. Some people have more children than others, and I'm not going to judge them for having 4 children that will have a huge impact on the carbon footprint of their family going forward. I'm starting to ramble, so I won't go on much longer, but I think everyone on this board cares about the environment. We care about trees. I work every day, every day, and I care so much about climate change. The storm the other night freaked me out. I'm scared for my children and what they're going to face. But I think there are things that we can do that can more than make up for these trees in terms of carbon footprint, ecosystem services. There are ways that people try to quantify or try to put a number on trees, and I could never do that because they mean a lot to me too. But we have considered the environment, we have considered trees, but I also have to consider the needs of the community. And, you know, this is an environmental agency, but this is first and foremost a recreation agency. And so I need to balance those needs in my decision making. That's it.
I really appreciate everybody's input. Since the beginning, I've felt that this is a really big decision that I would yield to the community. I think it's selfish of me to say yes or no and be that end-all vote. I think the community will come out in November if that's the desire, if this passes, and they can be the ultimate vote. So I yield my decision-making to the community, which I think is much more powerful to decide this issue.
Hi. First of all, I want to say that this vote is not a formality. We are voting on a particular number, and that number is important. If the recent events in our economic system wouldn't have happened, I would have voted yes for this. I will not be voting yes. I don't know how many of you feel comfortable that this 33-4 is going to get us what we want in 2 years. So I understand that we've built in escalators, etc. But it's a financial thing for me. Just two other comments regarding what else has been said here. I don't think this is first and foremost a recreation agency. We're a park district. So, and that is one of the things that bothers me about this plan, that we've monetized our green space for a want, not a need. The money would be nice, and that's why we're doing this. That's why we're cutting down habitat. The other suggestion that this was the plan that the whole task force wanted. I know people who voted against it, who left the task force. I think it's the plan that made it to the end. But like I said, I would have voted yes if it weren't for the economic uncertainty.
Thank you. Commissioner Bendy?
Thank you. And thank you to Chris and Carol for coming out tonight. Okay. There are many reasons to vote against this huge referendum. Number one is the cost. $33.4 million is 2 years' worth of budgets and puts us very close to the maximum amount we can borrow. Number two, the economy. Interest rates continue to climb, and most economists fear that we are headed toward a recession, right when the voters will be voting. Inflation keeps increasing, and these costs will not stop at 33.4. The environment. Studies show the indoor turf is not good for our health, which you all received information on, and we would be cutting down 32 healthy trees. The voters. Even if we squeak out a win, like it or not, all taxpayers will be stuck with a new $136 bill or more every year. Add that to the increasing prices at the pump, grocery store, and energy bills. In today's economy, let's have some compassion and empathy to all taxpayers and keep this referendum to the basics, only what is truly needed. The survey. I did not hear a robust endorsement of this plan. Some sports groups may like it, but in the end, it's always about the money. Maintenance. We have many buildings and grounds to maintain. Main Park Nature Center will be the newest addition. Do we really need a new $9 million building that requires expensive maintenance on the turf? I don't think so. I believe we are heading into a perfect storm for a huge defeat at the ballot box. I think about all those factors that are working against us: the cost, the economy, the environment, the mediocre survey results, ever-increasing maintenance, and not to mention the previous referendum defeats at Oakton. All these factors scream for us to put a smaller, targeted, but much-needed renovation on the ballot. not the entire master plan of everyone's wants and desires. It's not too late to call another meeting to discuss a smaller plan before all the deadlines. I think we, the park board, need to be fiscally responsible and responsive and have some empathy for the taxpayers of Park Ridge. I urge you to give the voters a better plan than this one. Please, seriously think about this. Thank you.
Thank you to Carol and to Chris and to my fellow commissioners. Now I'm just going to kind of give my thoughts. This plan is something that I think the fact that it does address more than one amenity is one of the things that actually makes it more attractive to the community. And as the mother of school-age kids with a lot of friends who also have school-age kids, one of the things that I heard even back before I was on the park board when I was just running was people were talking about the need for Park Ridge to have an indoor turf facility. I heard a lot about how a lot of parents you'd see like basically a Park Ridge caravan out to Lo Verde, which probably also is not a great environmental impact. But that aside, this is something that was being worked on before I was on the board, has been discussed in my time on the board, that we paid a lot of money to consultants to do all these surveys, and there were numerous focus groups with different groups in the community. And at this point, I do believe that putting it in the hands of the community and having a plan that doesn't just cater to one group actually is the best approach, and is the approach that's supported by the research from the very expensive consultants that we hired for these purposes, because we wanted to get a real feel for what the community wanted across a broad spectrum, not just one group or another. So that is something, and I also very much in line with Commissioner Holting's point about how there are various impacts we can take in other ways across the district. Because none of us love cutting down trees. That's not something that anybody really is a fan of. And I remember the amount of trees that were originally going to be lost was significantly higher than on the plan we eventually ended up with. So these are the kinds of reasons. And in terms of expense, if this, to me, it wouldn't make sense to do part of it now and then try to do another part in a few years. I feel like that would actually be more disruptive to the facility and the area around it, and be more expensive to have a couple separate large scale projects on this site within a few years of each other. So those are my thoughts for what they're worth. At this point, I think, unless anybody has any further comment, I think we call for a vote.
I just wanted to clarify that I agree with Commissioner Grau that this is a park district. I meant that it was a park and recreation district, so it's not. I meant that as a collective term for a park district, so I wanted to make that clarification.
Thank you.
And I just want to say, this is a very hard decision for me, and Cindy and I talked about this at length and the environmental impact. So I do not think that we're making this decision without, I've done lots of soul searching about it, and I think others have as well.
Oh, you want me to read the motion again? Yes. Oh, you want me to read the actual resolution? Okay.
Page
I see.
33, if you can read that. Before we do the vote.
All right. So the actual proposition to issue $33,400,000 in park bonds. Shall the Park Ridge Park District, Cook County, Illinois, renovate the 53-year-old Oakton Ice Arena, build and equip an indoor sports facility and studio ice rink at Oakton Park, improve and equip the Oakton Park facilities in site, including constructing a looped walking pathway, improving the golf driving range, and repairing and expanding the parking lot, and issue its bonds to the amount of $33,400,000 for the purpose of paying the cost thereof.
And now I can take the vote for the resolution. Sure.
It's binding.
Yeah, we wanted the paddle ball. We wanted the paddle ball for Prospect Park. And, you know, in the end, it was too much money and it got nixed, you know, it got axed. So, you know, something,
But you're saying we have to do what's in here.
well, if it's possible, I suppose.
You can,
No,
Oh, I don't think that's what Commissioner Grau is asking. She's not about asking if we can use the money for something else. She's asking if it turns out that doing all the things on the list costs more than 33.4, would that be a problem for us? So if we had to subtract something out.
yes, you're allowed, right, the 33 million in bond proceeds can only go to these projects. If that's not, doesn't stretch far enough to do them all, that's fine, but you cannot take any of the 33 and give it to any other project than those.
Oh, I don't think Cindy was
Well, I
asking
didn't-
about putting it in other projects. She just wanted to know what would happen if we didn't have enough to cover every item on the
But
list.
in the context of the conversation, if it was greatly reduced scope and you only wanted to spend 16 million, you're not allowed to take the other 17 and do
Right.
something different with it.
Right, no, I don't think that was not your intent at all, right? That you were just asking what would,
thank you.
okay. Any other comments, questions? All right,
Okay, so we're voting on right now for the resolution 22-1 for the referendum resolution. Commissioner Bendy?
No.
Commissioner Bowe?
No.
Commissioner Coyne?
Aye.
Commissioner Grau?
No.
Commissioner Hulting?
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnel? Commissioner Leduc?
yes.
The resolution passes.
All right, moving on to the approval of the minutes. I move to approve the regular board meeting minutes of Thursday, May 19th, 2022. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none? Oh, sorry. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I abstain.
All right. Now on to the report of park officials. As the president, the one thing I wanted to say is I wanted to give a shout out to the Nature Center staff for their recent backyard camp out. I took my daughter and I was very impressed with how well run it was, and like all the, options for various dietary concerns that were provided at the dinner and the breakfast, and the way they then flowed from the meal and the s'mores into the movie for the kids. And I thought it was a really well run event. Both my daughter and I enjoyed it, and as did the other families I know who were also camping there. So I just wanted to give a shout out for that, and then also say that it is really nice having the regular pool system back in effect. And So that was all I had. So Dirk, if you have anything for the attorney report?
I don't.
All right. And does Gail have anything in her voice
I'm
from above?
here. Yes. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Great. Again, I'm sure some of you are, thinking, well, we'll get away with Gail not giving a report, but here I am. So I do have a few things I wanted to say. First of all, I apologize for not being there in person. Obviously not my choice, the predicament that I've had, but getting better every day. And I thank the entire staff and board for stepping up and, in my absence, although I am working from home. I wanted to also mention that Jenny Meyer is, just to reiterate her intuition and her thinking on her feet, that was discussed and in her action with calling the senior that did not show up. There was a lot of detail, with her working with the other seniors with that, and she is to be commended. And I'm so proud to have staff that go this extra mile. It makes us very proud, and this is what we do. So I wanted to make sure that I recognize her for that as well. The staff in general, a lot of thank yous, but we've had extreme heat this week. And, early in the season, Memorial Day, they were hit with heat right away with the pools. So again, all staff and all departments, especially our frontline staff that is dealing with, this early on in the season, are to be commended. So as we go into this very busy season, so thank you for that. The other very important thing I wanted to do is, and unfortunately I can't do this in person, but just imagine me being there, is thanking past President Grau, Commissioner Cindy Grau. So I want to take a few minutes and recognize her for her year of service as the board president from May 21 to May 22, which we were unable to do at the last meeting. A few of the accomplishments, many accomplishments, I guess, throughout the year, I wanted to highlight, and this first bullet point, pivoted virtual board meetings to in-person board meetings and back and forth, following all the governor mandates, the orders, Cook County mandates, vaccine orders, and everything that went along with that. And, being my kind of counselor and confidant with all of the things that the staff and I were dealing with was immense. Resumed the Oakton Park and Facility public engagement process, which, as we know, is such a large initiative. We completed the Board of Commissioners internal policies and bylaws manual. The main park outdoor classroom was complete. The Hinckley Park Community Gardens, which was an initiative that Commissioner Grau, then President Grau, was an advocate of and got that off the ground and got it opened. And the restoration of the historic Sunny Playground Gate that is located in front of Wohlers. We also received the Wildwood Nature Center $750,000 Illinois Public Museum capital grant to renovate the property at 531 Forest View, and we acquired that property in the midst of the pandemic. So, so much goes on, as we all know, and as President Leduc is about to find out, behind the scenes, that is not mentioned here, that I rely on and the community does, the president for. So this is just a snapshot, and Cindy, thank you so much, and thank you for your service and your continued service, but you are to be recognized for your presidency in the past year, so thank you.
Well, thank you, Gail. It's a pleasure working with you, and I really enjoyed the year. You're a great executive director, and almost everything you were giving me credit for, you did. Or your staff. So
It's a team effort.
it
but,
was yes,
somebody
it
has-
was a it was
has to lead
it
us
was
through.
a good year. I enjoyed
Yes.
it, and I appreciate your words. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And I know Marianne has some flowers. We had a very specific request not to buy her, the plaque. So, it's a small token of our appreciation. So, thank you.
Yes, I passed on the gavel because it's just one more thing.
To have in your house, right? So with that, I don't have any other general updates. Of course, if there's any questions on the marketing or the human resource report, of course, Margaret's there. She can answer those questions on marketing, or I can answer on human resources. And from there, we'll go into the mission statement follow-up and review item on the agenda. Anybody?
Thank you. Margaret's stepping up to the mic.
Excellent.
Tall by this mic. I never feel tall. Did anybody have any questions on the marketing report before we move into the mission statement? No. Thank you. And thank you to the board members who are helping out tomorrow night with our grilling for the Friends of the Parks. We appreciate it. I'm very happy it's not weather like yesterday or today, and we should be comfortable by those girls. So the mission statement. First, I'd like to say thank you to everybody who took some time to really think about this after our last discussion and sent us in some comments or some other things that we could look at again. Just as a reminder, before we tackle some of those items that came up, is what the mission statement is again. It's why we exist. It really should be a concise statement, very memorable, easy to understand. Anybody on staff or the board should be able to recite it pretty easily. So we are trying to get something that's really concise and memorable. Whereas the vision could be a bit longer. It looks at kind of where we want to go, what areas we want to focus on moving forward. So we're not doing vision today. We're just kind of trying to work some more on our mission statement. So we did have in front of you, I put a copy of the kind of consolidation of what had come in. The first couple comments have to do with the word stewardship, open spaces, and resources. So I will get back to it, but I'd like to start out with the My Revision statement because that one really does introduce some new ideas. So I wanted to talk through some of those first before we kind of fine-tune the current draft. So again, I mentioned this one introduces some new concepts and different ideas. It says we enrich lives by connecting the community, by promoting healthy and active lifestyles, while providing exceptional services and an appreciation of our public spaces and social equity. So I kind of tried to break this down so that we could talk about different parts of it that might differ from the current draft. The first is this concept of promoting healthy and active lifestyles. Again, I look back for our reason of existing, and promoting doesn't seem the right verb. And then the healthy and active lifestyles, I almost think that works more in towards the vision statement, but I'm happy to hear other opinions if somebody feels differently.
So are you just asking for comments on that first phrase of promoting healthy and active lifestyles?
Yeah, we're kind of breaking it apart.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of ideas in this one.
There it is. Anyone want to start? Are you making eye contact because you want to say something or just happened to catch my eye?
Well, the problem is that I agree that the promoting doesn't seem like quite the right word, but I don't know what quite the right word is. So.
Right. But the whole idea of adding in something about healthy and active lifestyles that belong in
encouraging.
I almost feel like this is kind of getting that mission statement very long, and it's getting away from the conciseness that we're looking for.
I mean, I definitely am a fan of concise for this, maybe by providing opportunities for healthy and active lifestyles, like something about.
Okay, we
Yeah,
have
yeah.
like in our original draft here, our current draft, we have recreation experiences. So it's kind of working with that concept. Are we good with recreation experiences, or do we think we need to elongate that to include these concepts of healthy and active lifestyles?
I think
Sorry, I'm
that could be
still-
included in a mission or in how we achieve
the
the
vision.
recreational experiences. It's more granular.
Right.
The one at the top is more overarching, and I agree it's a good thing. It's just it might be just better as a tactic or a strategy or a vision.
I agree with Commissioner Grau.
Okay.
I agree that it's better suited to, because we do other things that aren't always 100% healthy, right? We're having a
Grilling
good time,
burgers.
right? So
Yeah, I'm giving people burgers and hot dogs and brats.
we're giving people,
Candy
giving people charred meat tomorrow for dinner. So
You can get
Uh,
an applesauce if you'd like a
it's
healthy
you know
side
what,
option.
Oh my God.
So, as I stated earlier, we all have to balance our choices.
Right.
So I still like the current draft at the top. I think we can get more into the health and environment and all of those things that we really value in the mission statement. So sorry, the
vision.
vision
Vision
statement.
statement.
Mission, vision, they rhyme.
Wait, like now it's getting.
I agree with both of those. I think one of the words that often comes to mind that I think a lot of what we're doing is we're providing a social experience too. And I think being social with others and interacting in a positive way. So maybe the word social would fit in with, healthy in a vision statement. And so I am leaning towards the current draft right now also. And then we provide the details when we get into the vision statement.
I think that's a very good point. I absolutely agree with you on that.
And that fits in with every age level too, whether we're talking about kids that need to be socialized, but seniors need to have that opportunity also. So
Okay. Does
Yeah, I-
anybody feel differently or?
Well, no, I just want to circle back to say that, I thought kind of our exercise was here to sort of parse the my revision one out as an exercise, but I just want to go on that I like the current draft as it was. I think we're under the heading of current draft. I'm perfectly fine with it actually all the way through, but certainly through the words memorable recreation experiences.
I think.
I sent this to you about a month ago, the my revision, and basically it was a Frankenstein kind of sentence because I put it together from an NRPA stuff, access to park and recreation for health, conservation and social equity, encourages the promotion of health and active lifestyles, conservation initiatives, and equitable access to parks and public spaces. So, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's more vision. I haven't seen I don't know what our vision statement is.
We don't have our vision statement yet. We're
Yeah.
gonna work on that.
That one
next.
next.
Right,
Yeah.
gotcha. But
Moving forward.
it's a kind of the current is kind of flat. It's not like it's not memorable. So that's why I thought maybe adding these especially healthy and active lifestyles. That's kind of I think that says something to people, and as opposed to it's just a little milk toasty. So anyway, but maybe that's what it should be. I don't know, but that's why I again kind of put some best ideas from the National Association and just put it together. I don't know if maybe you think it's a little wordy, maybe it is, but I think there are some good ideas in there.
I think there's good ideas too. And I think there's a lot of actually good words. And I think it does work more for our vision statement because NRPA is actually an association and not a park district. So actually our reasons for existence are a bit different. So NRPA's is for more advocacy and promotion, where ours is for providing to the community. So that's why I think theirs is even worded different, like that, promoting healthy lifestyles and that, because part of their job is to give out that promotion.
You know, and, well, again, we could be providing exceptional services, which, you know, is kind of like, we're, you know.
Yeah, I didn't get there yet.
Yeah, oh, okay.
Exceptional service.
I mean, you know, let's brag a little bit, I think. That's what I kind of think a mission statement could be. I don't, maybe a vision statement, I don't know. I'm not sure of the difference, to tell you the truth, but, you know, I think to brag about what we do, I think is kind of important. And I don't think the first one does that as well, or the current one does that as well. So, whatever, you know.
I'll move on.
You know, and I do agree that,
Yeah.
you know, with what your point of view on that, and I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
Trying to jazz it up a little bit with
Yeah.
a little bit more.
Maybe.
It's such a hard.
It is
thing
hard.
to
Yeah.
frame.
Can I just ask, did you, I'm sorry about it. Did you go over, do you have the one word difference between the mission statement and the vision?
Oh.
Because in my mind, the mission statement, like, is your priorities.
It's why you exist, why
Right.
we're here. It's our fundamental, like, why we're here.
And your vision is.
Your vision is where you want to get to, what you want to do, where you want to become. Like, so, you know, how you achieve the reasons why you exist. So if
So that's why the vision statement would be more detailed and would be like a good place to work in some of these concepts that Commissioner Bendy raised, because she definitely raised some good concepts, but I think the mission statement is meant to be a little more pithy. And I think there are some in here
Melissa,
that we might not be at yet, but I think would be good goals to incorporate in the vision statement.
I think the mission statement's important, but I think Melissa said, like, I really want to work on that vision statement, and I kind of agree with that. I think the vision statement, you know, gives more direction to the district. It then feeds into our strategic plan and helps develop those long-term goals and then those short-term tactics that, like, achieve those goals. So that vision statement kind of works out that strategic plan and goes hand in hand with that a little bit more and gives you more actionable items.
Oh, yeah, Commissioner Tunnell, you've been so patient.
No, when I think of a mission statement, I think your goal is to ultimately have, if I go up to Superintendent Wolf and say, what's our mission statement? He's going to give me the same answer as the 15-year-old that's working as a lifeguard. And where I do really think that all those words are very important to incorporate into the vision statement. I think the mission needs to be simple so that everybody is on the same page. It's a universal language for the whole park district that everybody's on the same page, in my opinion. So, but I do think there's a lot of great concepts to work into the vision statement. That vision statement can be so big and huge; it can be like 30 pages, right? Like,
That sounds like a good job
Yeah.
for our policy.
I will-
liaison.
Not. That's like the strategic plan could end up being 30 pages, but.
Yeah, the strategic plan is more of that. The vision is also, yeah, it's how you do it, but it is a little more wordy. But Commissioner Tunnell said, it needs to be concise, memorable, and our core of what we do.
You know, we talked about at the beginning, it needs like, and Margaret, forgive me if it's like who, what, and how, right? So we want to connect the community. That's super important after COVID. We want to give them memorable experiences. That includes a bunch of different things. And then I think all of us, since I came onto the board, have said something about stewardship, either of money and or the environment and natural resources and open space. So I like it the way it is. I say we close the book on this and move on to the next thing so we can make more memorable recreation experiences for the community.
And yeah, just make sure that the though is changed to through. Sorry, I just caught it.
Sorry.
Also, yes.
Thank you. Do you want me to keep going through all the like comments and working through? We're going to, because there's other comments like,
If people sent in comments, it was because we were going to work on this.
right.
If
So
we
I think we
weren't-
should
If we
still
were
go through.
done, we could have been done last time.
Right.
Yes.
So my next part of this statement too is the providing exceptional services. That kind of goes along with through memorable recreation experiences. So I remember the last time we kind of talked through that word memorable, and Honestly, I didn't dig back through my notes, but I didn't remember if exceptional had come up as one of the choices instead of memorable. But I remember writing down a bunch and kind of working through them, and I thought we came up with memorable.
So Margaret, you're saying we would put exceptional versus memorable if the board wanted to, right? That would be swapped. It
Sorry,
would
Matt's
be-
talking.
Oh, okay.
Exceptional. All right. So what I was hoping is on these different points we could get some consensus. So do we want to do a memorable or exceptional?
I like memorable better.
All right. So I got one
No, I
and
think
one.
about with my. Sorry, we can't agree on everything. It's an elected board. We won't always agree. I think about with my kids, like some of their most memorable things aren't necessarily like the most exceptional. Sometimes they just want something simple. So I guess I'm a simple lady, and I like memorable better because it's less juicy, maybe because it's less flashy.
I'm okay with either, to be honest with you. I just thought, it was an interesting word, so I would lean towards acceptable, but memorable is fine.
I
Anybody
think
else?
exceptional service is a great thing to include again in our vision statement. I think customer service continues to be something that I know that's maybe slightly different, but I like memorable better. But I'm not gonna like throw a fit about it,
I think I have a similar position where I prefer memorable, but I won't be horrified if we go with exceptional, I guess.
So I'm retracting mine and saying memorable would be great. I think it's the perfect word.
Okay, but I agreed with you, Matt. I liked exceptional.
You like the exceptional? Joan, do you prefer exceptional to memorable? Abiding.
Is somebody helping you take a tally, Margaret?
Sorry.
I'm doing it.
Okay.
I think, kind of gets to the point where we're providing it. And, that's direct. That's.
So you're thinking that instead of community through memorable, it'd be like community by providing.
By providing.
Or through providing memorable.
Yes.
You could still have
I feel
through
like
there.
by providing reads better than through providing.
Oh, we already have by connecting.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Never mind then. I'd stick with through then. Because, yeah, we don't want to be.
Yeah.
You don't need
by,
extra words that don't add meaning.
Yeah.
To this.
we enrich lives by connecting the community through providing memorable recreation. John, did you vote
more
on
act-
memorable or?
Well, if you say providing, though, it's a more active thing.
So there's two exceptions.
I think we're all, like, nobody's super passionate about it. And
either
so
one?
we're all, like, very, like, yeah, we're cool.
I think that memorable kind of sticks out in that sentence for some. It just
So you think it would just flow better with exceptional?
no. I don't know. It's when we talked about it last time, I didn't notice it, but when we talked about it this time, I was like, oh, that's like markety.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're talking to the marketing person.
I didn't put it there for the record.
Generic marketer.
Generic. Yeah, I'm not blaming you though.
Okay,
I don't know.
so I think I'm hearing we're going exceptional.
Sure.
Does anybody feel strongly the other? Okay.
Yeah, exceptional's good.
Fine, I don't.
I got the providing, through providing exceptional recreation experiences.
I don't love the phrase "through providing together" though. I would rather. I would be okay with exceptional, but go straight to like through exceptional.
Yes, you don't need providing.
Providing just it muddies it.
How about
By
unique?
connecting the community, providing.
Oh my god.
You know, when you say providing, it's very active. It's an active verb, and that's kind of good. Passive verbs are not as great, I think. So that's why providing it. Maybe it's a vision thing. I don't know, because I am still not clear on this vision versus mission. But I don't know. Yeah.
Here's my question. Is it going to change what we do if we put memorable or, no? So
So it's kind of neither here nor there, really.
I think there's other things that may
That are more
More
worthy
meaning.
of board time.
have more meaning than that word. That, will it change how we do business if we use memorable or exceptional?
Okay. I'd like to hit on the providing word, especially with this, like getting rid of the through. We enrich lives by connecting the community, by providing, like, it's,
Yeah.
doesn't read right.
That doesn't read
The
right.
problem is actually this connecting then, like, because it really should read, we enrich lives by providing the community exceptional recreation experiences. So that, but then you lose that connection concept.
And I really feel like the connecting the
Connecting is
community
the
is
most-
actually a pretty important concept.
To me, that's the most important part of the whole thing, especially in the time that we are now where people have been disconnected. Like, this is part of the reason I ran, right? I want people to come together in our facilities again and be with
Okay.
each other.
We could change it around to, we enrich lives by providing exceptional, memorable, or sorry, the memorable is still there, so it's throwing me off. By providing exceptional recreation experiences to connect the community and
But
we need
stewardship
another
doesn't,
verb
like,
there.
Flow naturally. I mean,
It's making it long.
Stewarding our open spaces and resources.
And
stewarding
stewarding.
sounds weird.
Right, then.
It should be an ing verb, though, you're right, because you got the providing.
If we want to use exceptional, I think we do a one-for-one swap with memorable and
Yeah.
stop.
I feel like that's the
Yeah.
like best flowing.
Yes.
And then
I would
not
agree.
worrying about the word providing.
Yes.
I think it's implied. You know, a big thing is you want things like this to be plain language, and so you don't want extra words in there that don't add additional meaning to the sentence. And so that would, it's an implied thing that that's what we're doing. We're providing.
Oh, thank you.
If we have an adjective for recreational experiences, shouldn't we also have one for stewardship, like careful stewardship or
I don't think it's
ongoing?
necessary.
But I'm just thinking that we've got what if we just removed memorable?
Steward. Oh, I was gonna say when you think stewardship, though, I mean, you just sort of. I feel like there's a general implication of careful stewardship, and not. I think people know we're not going to be like recklessly stewarding. it.
I think that's.
Not every noun needs an adjective.
Careful
Caretaking.
management.
Careful
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's
Yeah.
in the word itself.
If someone's not taking care of a resource, you're not going to call that stewardship to begin with.
What I'd like to see from Margaret, I hope we're not going to decide totally, finally tonight. I'd really like to see the suggestion or suggestions in writing, because I like it visually, for myself. And so
I'm not making a formal decision.
okay, perfect. Yeah, so I really appreciate if you could, put it together for us.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Because those aren't two separate, they're two verbs. Yeah, sorry. I don't think a comma would be grammatically correct after experiences. But Margaret writes more than I do, so.
And I had
Compound
my,
sentence. It'd have to be a complete, full sentence.
this next concept is the appreciation of our public spaces and social equity. I personally really like actually that public spaces word. I don't know how everybody else felt about it, but Gail and I talked about it a little bit and working with those ideas and those questions above about open spaces and resources and going back and forth. We actually thought maybe public spaces kind of covers everything that you were trying to do with open spaces and resources.
Could not agree more. I never thought of the phrase, but I was trying to come with the phrase that would combine it, and I had come, parks and facilities, open spaces and facilities, open spaces and resources, went back and forth on all of that. And then when I saw public spaces, it just seems like that does a pretty good job of encompassing all of the things that we manage, you manage.
Yeah, I think public spaces is a better term than open spaces. I would agree with that.
Anybody else?
Anybody else?
We were actually thinking open spaces and resources, that it covers
Public
both of them.
spaces and resources,
No, just public spaces.
and nix the,
Open spaces and resources. Public spaces. You like it too?
yes.
No? Yeah.
All right.
Everybody?
Well, we agreed on that
There we
part.
go.
Yay.
We made it a little smaller.
We like that.
How does it work for Superintendent Wolf? Because I'm going to be calling him every 2 weeks to ask him to recite it back to me.
I don't think he's paying attention.
No, he's not.
I'll remember that when he's talking.
Mr. Wolf, is there something you'd like to share with the class?
I think we should all recite it. Repeat
So
maybe.
then it would read basically, we enrich lives, well, I guess the sort of working update would be, we enrich lives by connecting the community through exceptional recreation experiences and stewardship of our public spaces.
Right.
I like that.
So I know I think it was Cindy had brought up the word stewardship. Is everybody good with stewardship, or did we want to try to talk that through a little bit more?
I think originally you had conservation, and then it turned to stewardship the first time we went through this. But I'm okay. I'm okay with it.
Okay. Everybody good?
Yeah.
So
Stewardship is not my favorite word, but I don't know. I don't know what else the alternative is.
we are with what you just read last. So that's where we're at.
I definitely like stewardship. I feel like it's kind of the best encompassing term for what we're doing. And I just feel like it's a little more accurate than some of the other options, even if some of the other options are prettier words.
Okay. Any other input, or are we good for tonight? The idea moving forward too, I will type it up and I'll send it around to the board again, and you guys could bring back more feedback if you have more. But the idea was then we were going to start working on the vision statement. We'll workshop it with staff, then bring that to the board. And then once we get a vision statement together, then we'll bring both the mission and the vision statement back for a formal approval, and then we'll adopt it. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, everyone, for that.
All right. Moving on to human resources. Is Director DeGangi in? Oh, no, nothing tonight?
No, I mean, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer it. I would just point to the great effort in terms of the recruiting by all staff. And as you can see by the numbers, the incentive really kicked in, and we had a lot of people referring as we would expect later in the hiring process. So it really helped with recruitment efforts. So we were happy to see that. And I think that was all that was highlighted that I thought was important to point out.
Well, it's great to see those efforts bearing fruit.
Yep.
How are
we on camp counselors? Are we, I think last meeting, and I apologize if I didn't catch it in the packet.
Okay.
Did we pick up enough camp counselors, or is that something you're still hiring for?
I'll let April speak to that.
Okay. Sorry, I'm out of order.
right.
I can wait till recreation too.
That's okay. We did have enough hired. We did take down the posting, and we're still interviewing some people because we were really like right at the wire. And then, we need subs just for people being out and sick, and
Got it.
and also a lot more vacations scheduled than we've had in the past. Normally, we're like, okay, if you have a vacation, you're a sub. And so we hired people knowing that they had vacations. So right now there's a lot of juggling of schedules and when people are going to be in and out. So we're still working on that. And, we had several people resign right before camp started because of circumstances and personal reasons. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, April.
did hire
And-
enough
and-
right at the wire, but still hiring.
I just also wanted to mention, as you see in the report, the 15-year-old hires. I think that was also something, initiative that paid off as well. If we hired 45 people for the positions we felt that it was appropriate for. So great, some great efforts.
Yeah, since we're on that topic, I'll take that out of my report that I was going to mention, but it seems appropriate now. Yes, those are mostly in the aquatics department. So, between all of the new staff and camps, as well as the aquatics department and the 15-year-olds, it's been definitely, a lot more work just onboarding and training everyone for staff, but it's been great. The 15-year-olds are definitely very eager to learn and happy to have these positions. It's great to have them. Just a learning curve for everybody being the first time. We're happy to have those 45 for sure. It's been helpful
Yes.
for operations.
I'm sure their parents are appreciative too that they have a job.
Mm.
I remember when Commissioner O'Brien was trying to get his kid a job at 15, and we said, no. Yeah. Yeah. There are different times.
Different times.
All right, I think we're ready to move on to finance then. Commissioner
All right, thank you. And I'll turn finance over to Superintendent DeAngelis.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowe. My written finance report begins on page 12 of your packet. I did want to point out that the 2023 budget timeline referenced in the written report was inadvertently omitted in the file. I've distributed that to you so that you can take a look at it. And it's going to be posted on the packet that's on the website. If anyone has any questions on the written report, I'd be happy to answer them now. Otherwise, I will view the financial performance details in the monthly report by funds.
Can I
Commissioner
just say,
Grau?
I was going to go back and look, but I noticed for the first time since I've been on the board, I think, that I met Square is gone in your.
I reported on that last month.
I wasn't here.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm sure I probably noticed it then too. I was going to go see what had actually happened, but
So the final distribution was made last year, and everything's reflected in the 2021 financials.
right. So we're done.
So
with that
that's
mess.
yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Joan was on the board then too.
Any other questions? The treasurer's report on page 14 shows our cash and investment position at the end of May remained strong at 13.5 million. And when we look at the projection graph later on, we'll see that this is better than budgeted projections by about 970,000. The positive variance is largely attributable to the improving participation and also higher than anticipated personal property replacement tax distribution from the state. The performance report continues to show our portfolio yield below the benchmark as interest rates are continuing to increase. The Fed just raised rates yesterday, I believe it was. I have incorporated the expected delay in the distribution of second half property tax bills in the projection graph, and went ahead working with PMA to invest $1 million in treasuries for 6 months at a rate of 1.79% and $1 million in treasuries for 3 months at a rate of 1.25% in June. So those investments are not reflected in the graph yet because the graph is just through May. But when we see those investments, I'm still comfortable that we'll have sufficient cash, even as the penalty date's been moved to January. The penalty date in the projections has been moved to January 1st because we haven't heard for certain when that will be, but in anticipation of that. And then in the monthly report by funds, all funds shows again through May results are better than both budget and the prior year by 1.2 million and 490,000 respectively. And again, these are the same factors that we've been talking about for the last few months. Increased class participation compared to the pandemic year, as well as the higher replacement taxes and our tax receipts. And you can see that impact in the general fund, that the larger factor is that receipt of about 245,000 more personal property replacement taxes, which is that corporate tax that's distributed by the state, than we had at this point in 2021. And where our property taxes is now closer to where we were in the prior year. It's about 35,000 more. So the PPRT tax is a much larger factor. And our expenditures of about 1.9 million are only about 67,000 more than at this point last year, resulting in a positive variance compared to the prior year of 190,000. And in the recreation fund on the next page, you can see that impact of increased participation as total recreation revenues are 172% higher than the prior year. And then the capital fund on the next page shows our capital expenditures as of May. Continue to lag the budgeted amount. We're at about 47% of budget. But the variance in revenue also remains due to the timing of budgeted grant revenue, that the way it's shown in the budget is kind of evenly distributed, but we would expect to receive that later in the year. And then a last fund is the operating fund, and that also shows the same factors I previously highlighted. And the 2.2 million net surplus as of May is about 870,000 better than budgeted and about $1 million more than in the prior year. And also, as I highlighted in the written report, this compares favorably to this point in 2019 as well by about 600,000. So far this year, so good. We are, the numbers are looking good. Hopefully we'll be able to continue on this path. Does anyone have any questions on the monthly report by funds? Commissioner Grau?
We've always had delays in our capital, but it seems like the last, year or two, it's been really, really delayed. And it helps us look good, but it's kind of misleading, isn't it? Because we're not getting what I don't know what my question is, but I'm like, it's kind of
So I think that that's why it's important to look at the funds separately.
Yes.
And the operating fund really, kind of reflects our operations.
Yes.
And the capital fund is, where you see that. And, as I'm sure Terry can elaborate, it is likely that we will see greater delays. And in fact, that Woodland grant maybe won't come in this year, right? So, well, we'll see. I mean,
Let's take bets.
we need to get the expenditures and get the, audit and everything done.
I
So,
thank you for that answer because I'm like, oh yeah, we look good because we're not spending this money, but thank
so yeah, again, that's why it's important to look at the different fund components, and the all funds doesn't tell the whole story because when the capital numbers are large, it can drive that. But it's we want to see what's happening in capital, so we can look at that separately. And the operating fund really tells the story, of what's going on operationally.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So the last part of my report is the financial projections. So if you take a look at the graph, you can see there where I changed the assumption for the second half property tax installment due date to January 1st. It results in the cash position and fund balance projections falling below budget expectations in September and then rebounding by January of '23. So we'll continue to monitor any updates and adjust these projections as more information becomes available. Any questions regarding the finance report?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
And do you have a motion?
all right. I move to approve the payment vouchers in the amount of $487,836.07.
Second.
Any discussion? Can we have a roll call?
Commissioner Bowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne?
Aye.
Commissioner Grau?
Yes.
Commissioner Hulting?
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnel?
Yes.
Commissioner Bendy?
Yes.
Commissioner Leduc?
Yes.
And I turn it back to Commissioner Coyne with Recreation.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowe. And I will in turn turn it over to Superintendent Armour for her report.
Thank you. As I mentioned last time, we closed out the school year with preschool graduations and dance shows. So there's some photos and highlights in this report. Summer, of course, as I just mentioned, is in full swing. Camps and programs are in sessions, and the pools have been packed on these really warm days. On page 40, we show a snapshot comparison of camp enrollment as well as some youth and teen highlights. Our semi-new supervisors jumped right in with getting these programs back off the ground because we really haven't had any of these in the past few years, and some are new. I would like to point out in athletics, karate and tennis, group lessons specifically, these are have definitely really increased and are higher than pre-COVID enrollment. And Wildwood participation continues to climb, nearing to the pre-COVID participation as well. The Oakton facilities had a great month, closing out spring skating session with over 300 participants, and the driving range and batting cages did very well when the weather cooperated this past month. The Activity Center had a Night with the Stars event and many other fun trips and classes throughout the month, and the Brickton Art Center programs are really doing well at the Activity Center also. The Fitness Center saw another slight increase again in total memberships in May, and there's many new group fitness classes being introduced this month. Indoor and outdoor aquatics both had a great month as well. Pool pass sales are near where we budgeted for the total year as reported here at the end of May. And not in this report, we did just have our first audit, and we received 4 out of 5 for our audit, which is excellent, especially with all of the new staff that we have been talking about. It's great, you know, because sometimes they're a little hesitant, especially at the beginning of the year, but our aquatics manager said everyone did a really great job, so that's excellent news. And as Margaret mentioned, don't forget to join us at the summer concert tomorrow, as well as the craft fair at Oakton on Saturday. And then there's some other fun events upcoming. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the rest of the report, if there are any.
We had a lot of fun handing out a lot of coupons at the parade. Was there a massive spike in people cashing them in?
I asked at the end of last week, I think it was the end of last week, and I think they estimated about, you know, they didn't look. I just asked off the cuff, and they're like, I think at least like 15 people had come in, so I haven't asked this week yet.
Good. Good.
And was there any correspondence between how many people took candy and how many and the coupon users?
We did give out, staff gave out some coupons at the fitness event at Hodges this weekend. Also, there were some left. So hopefully that brings some new people in.
Yeah, if
Keeping track, and then we'll track.
Good.
if we do it again, I think I will give out more. But we were close to the front this year, so we were moving really fast. I think we maybe could give out more next year if we're not moving so fast. You know, like at the end there were so many left, right? No, there wasn't?
Yeah, there weren't that many.
75? Oh, you're kidding me. Oh my gosh. Maybe I was a slow poke. Sorry. That was good to know.
Go ahead.
Joan was handing out, she must be responsible for like 500 of them.
And since we've just went through an exercise of parsing words, that handing out might not be quite the right word that I would say it was being used by fellow commissioners, but maybe we don't want that on public record, but that's okay. No, it was a great time at the parade. I only have a couple things, and one is that my regrets for not being able to be at the concert tomorrow night. It looks like it's going to be a super fun event. And I wanted to say that District 64 board member Larry Riles came up to me randomly at a coffee shop and said that he attended the preschool graduation and was so impressed with it. And I believe he's taking it back to his board, saying that all board members for D64 should attend the preschool graduation at the Park District, and I thought that was kind of awesome. He said it was like so cool. So
it was really neat the way that they did it, and I thought it was unique to do it class by class. You really get the opportunity to spend.
When someone randomly comes up to you and says like, "This should be," and he's. I don't even know why he was there, except maybe he's a grandpa or something there. But it was pretty. It was
and this
pretty
venue
cool.
is just perfect
Yeah.
when the weather's nice, of course.
So,
outdoors.
So that is well. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, sorry. Kind of a personal note. So my husband bought a swimming pass in April, and when are you supposed to when are you supposed to get those 2 free passes?
They should be on your household already.
Oh, it's on your email or something?
They should have been put onto your household. So we didn't distribute and mail the actual passes.
Right, okay.
It was
So he's got to
much
look?
work to do those
Sure.
by hand.
Okay, I'll have to ask him. Thank you.
Well, they should just automatically be on your household. So if you bring a guest,
Oh,
it
gotcha.
should be on there.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
I can look right now to make sure.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you, Superintendent Armour, and I turn the
Thank you.
floor over to Commissioner Halting.
Why, thank you. And I will turn it over to Superintendent Wolf to tell us about all of the adventures and hijinks on our buildings,
Yes.
especially our grounds.
Thank you. We have a lot going on. I do actually want to take just one moment. I mentioned in the outdoor pools um, section that we've had some staff working 7 days a week. I want to acknowledge one of our staff in particular, Brian Bossi. He has been working more than anybody when I'm looking through payroll records. His dedication is bar none. Many of you may know him. He used to be our maintenance employee at the fitness center many years ago, a couple years actually before COVID. Transferred over into the facilities just to kind of work around in different places, and have been working at the pools as a technician over the last few years, and has really just been an exemplary example of dedication. He has had literally 4 days where he hasn't been here at work since the first day of March. And while we don't certainly expect or require that of anybody, his willingness to come in and do that to make sure that these programs are happening, the pools are running, all the different things, and still, after all that, is willing to step up and take, extra shifts when they come in or cover problems when they come up. I mean, he's working, on times he's working 13, 14 plus hours a day. So I just wanted to take a minute to publicly acknowledge him as an individual because it really stands out to me, and I'm very proud to have someone like that on my team. So as you'll see in my report, it's the time of year where we get a lot of pictures and a lot less words because pictures are worth 1,000 words, and there's so much going on. And I think people over the years I've learned like to see kind of the ins and outs of things that you might not always get a chance to see. So certainly there's a lot going on. J.C. Park tennis courts, as you can see, has had a lot of work going on. I do, however, want to update the board. You may or may not have heard about a strike that's ongoing in Chicago with material processors. And so basically, Local 150 and a couple other unions are having a strike against a few of the largest producers of gravel, sand, aggregates, and things like that. All the products that you need to go into major construction, such as road construction and, quite honestly, tennis court construction, concrete, asphalt, all those things. Our contractor did advise us late yesterday afternoon that if that strike is not resolved by tomorrow, then it will have an impact on the project. Then work will likely not be occurring starting Monday next week and continue throughout the duration of that strike. So it's something that I've spoken with our attorney about. While we do have certain protections for things like that, if it was more localized, whereas a contractor or subcontractor was having labor issues with their staff, they would be required to resolve those. This is a little bit outside of our control because it's such a large, covers the whole Chicagoland area. If you look, you can find a few articles on it, or I'd be happy to share actually a radio interview that I have available that we could might shed a little more light on it.
Can you say who's striking?
I know it's Local 150. I believe it's if you type in material producers strike, that would get you there. Yep. And I'd be happy to share some stuff with you as well if you want to reach out to me. So unfortunately, that will be having an impact on that project, most likely going forward, unless something happens tomorrow. So beyond that, I would like to answer any questions that anybody has on any of the projects that are listed in the report.
Does anybody have any questions for Terry? So the plan with Woodland is just still to continue to investigate, these mysterious pipe groundwater.
Yeah, we can jump to that if you want to jump. I do have a.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'm scrolling the 40 pages back and forth between the packet and the agenda, so sorry.
I have a quick question.
We can move on to this. We can keep it. You want to talk about it now?
I just had a quick question on the pools.
Yeah.
Just if we had any more feedback from anyone else in the community about the shower temperature at all?
I remember I've heard that in the past. I have not had anything else with that. We had an issue specifically at Hinckley that a resident had reached out to us in the past that we worked through as soon as we were made aware of it. So obviously, I'll work with my staff starting tomorrow to see what we can do about that. But I had not heard anything previous to the comment tonight.
Because I remember that at Hinckley, and you guys resolved it right away. So
Yeah, we got complimentary letters and letters of thanks for addressing it so quickly. But
yeah, we appreciate how fast you guys were to resolve that. So thank you.
do it with the same tenacity this time.
So any
Oh, yeah.
questions on things that aren't Woodland?
No. Is Brian the guy, kind of big guy? Did he work at South Park or no? At one point?
He did not work at South Park.
No.
At one point specifically, he works all over. He is
Okay.
a taller
Okay.
gentleman.
Because I don't know Brian's last name, but okay. Is there two Brians? Yeah. There's
Oh yes, you're thinking of Brian Daly. He is their night custodian at Main Park now. So, and he used to work shifts at. at South Park.
Well, okay. So this Brian Bossy, is that his name?
Bossy.
Bossy. Okay. All right. Well, I see a Brian, and I don't know which Brian it is.
If you see a Brian out and about in the parks,
Yeah.
and working in facilities,
Probably it's him.
outside of Main Park, it's Brian.
I think he knows me, but yeah. Okay. I just wanted to. Yeah. Keep up the good work. Right.
We had some discussion about making sure he's got some days
Yeah.
off coming up here in the
Okay.
near future.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Sure.
Oh, I had a quick question on the Centennial Activity Center fire alarm. I saw that it said final testing is scheduled to take place the morning of Thursday, June 9th, given that it's the 16th. Hopefully all that was done and went well.
Yes, it did go well. We did. We generally we passed inspection. There was a comment from Lieutenant Plock who would like to see 3 different zoning things happen with the outdoor pools, so that the 2 locker rooms and the family changing room would be on different zones, so it would give the firemen and paramedic first responders more direct understanding of where the issue is, or if we're having trouble alarm with the alarm system, to tell us where specifically that issue is. And so I had a follow-up conversation with Lieutenant Plock this afternoon just to make sure that he understood with our operations that it would be best if we could wait to make those final adjustments until after the pool season, so as not to disrupt the pool season. He agreed, and we'll work through any issues during the season that comes up. But it's not a life safety issue; it'll just be enhanced once we get that repaired. So, but we did pass inspection, so we're good to go.
Great, thanks.
That's the long answer, by the way.
All right. If we're done with the questions about the report, I think we can move on to the motion about the cleaning services at Centennial. So I will go ahead and read the motion. I move to approve Total Building Services Incorporated as the lowest responsible bidder for the Centennial Fitness Center cleaning and custodial services bid in the amount of $66,780, and to authorize the president to execute and deliver the agreement. Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on this? Cindy? She's pointing her finger? Okay. Any context you would like to provide the board, Terry, on this?
I would just give the context that this bid, for whatever reason, pretty typically has a high number of people that respond to it, but maybe are not responsive because they don't complete all the portions of the bid. I'm not sure why that is, but it seems quite typical. As it just happened to work out this time, the lowest responsible bidder that did complete all the information is the one we're working with, we've been happy with, and their price increase seems reasonable over the course of time. So in general, this should make for the smoothest possible transition going forward. So.
All right. We call the roll.
Commissioner Coyne,
Aye.
Commissioner Grau,
Yes.
Commissioner Halting,
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnel,
Yes.
Commissioner Bendy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bowe,
Yes.
Commissioner Leduc.
Yes.
All right. And now we can move on to talk about Marvin Parkway. Is that what's next? It's hard when the agenda is all the way up and I'm on my iPad. So let's talk about Marvin Parkway.
Yes. So we've had a number of different conversations and discussions about Marvin Parkway, and so we've been asked a few times, and we've had some conversations about it in both via email and in open meetings, and the Marvin Parkway project from the city's perspective has finally wrapped up. And so staff found themselves in the position of reengaging and, reevaluating the needs and what we would want to do out there. And so I thought it was important maybe to give a little bit more full depth of background for everyone's benefit, since we've got varying lengths of service here on the board. And so, if hopefully you've had a chance to read the memo, but if not, I'll try to summarize briefly here that, in 2016, we were actually going through a playground site studies, exercise to determine where we should replace the next playground. And so we really took a holistic view of the district, looked at the size of the parks, et cetera. And so we completed that exercise, but in the process of doing so, we actually had a secondary bit of information that became, I guess, visual to us at that point. We identified two separate spots in Park Ridge that kind of had a glaring hole in them for service. And one of those locations was here in this corridor that's, in between Bussey and Northwest down towards D Road. And so we had been looking at this area and thinking about different opportunities that we may have for providing a small parcel of open space, whether it maybe could have a playground, maybe not have a playground, just some, piece of open land that people that could walk to within those confines. And one of the things that we look so strongly about with that particular location is that that neighborhood is really bound by busier roads than a lot of other locations that have residential dwellings in the community. And so we felt that that was kind of important for that neighborhood, which is why when the Marvin Parkway idea came up in a meeting in November of 2020, it was like, oh yeah, this could be a really great option. I was familiar with that space, but it was, had a nondescript purpose previously. It was overgrown with a lot of misplaced shrubs and, volunteer trees and things like that. It just was kind of unsightly and not very open. I learned over the course of time since that November 2020 meeting what the city's intention was. They have it put in storm vaults underneath it, so it's got concrete storm detention underneath it that helps with flooding in the neighborhood and in the area. With the construction process, almost virtually the entire space there is covered or has a concrete vault about a foot under the ground. It varies slightly in depth from side to side, but it goes from 2.5 feet to about 1/2 foot, which really limits some of the other things that we could do there. Playground is, I can't put posts in the ground, there's concrete there. So there's a lot of limitations, and it literally covers everywhere that you don't see a tree right now. Where there's trees, that's the spots where they could fit the trees. So they did a good job of doing that. Furthering all this, having looked at the site and visited the site, my first impression was, wow, this looks nice. They did a nice job. They've freshly sodded it. It's got some shrubs. They've planted trees. I was having a hard time visioning, knowing some of the constraints, what more we as the Park District might do to help serve the needs of that neighborhood. And so in discussions with, both Jennifer, our planner and project manager, as well as other staff and Gail, we kind of talked through that, perhaps the site as is meets the needs of that neighborhood and is an open space that the city really can't do anything else with. They've got a commitment with MWRD to maintain it for, I believe, 25 or 50 years as is, because it's got the stormwater underneath it. And so, this whole process started because we identified an issue in an underserved area. It led to further conversations with other government agencies on how we could partner. We were ready to partner. We're still ready to partner. But at this time, I'm saying that other government agency has unintentionally met the needs that we were trying to fill in that location to some degree, and maybe it wouldn't be the best use of our funds and time right now to further pursue any additional development there. So I failed miserably at summarizing that shortly, but nonetheless, I think that's where I kind of see this property, and I'm wide open for discussion or any other ideas, thoughts from the board. Should we further investigate this? Do you have any specific ideas on things that maybe you think we should look at out there as a whole, or yes, we agree. We think the, mission's been handled in this neighborhood, and let's move on to others. So, open any comments or questions at this time.
Hi, okay. What about some park benches?
I mean, we could
You know?
park benches, sure.
I mean, that kind of leads me to, what about Morgan Park, too? Do they have benches there?
We do not have benches at Morgan Park.
Okay.
One of the challenges that we find ourselves in with benches, and not one that we would shy away from, but just I guess something we need to be conscious of,
Mhm.
is that when we install benches, they need to be accessible. So we can't just plop them in the middle of grass.
Oh.
We have to have a pathway, an accessible route, make sure it's proper grade and everything else. So it's not just, the cost of even a bench is a couple of $1,000
right.
plus installation.
Mm.
Then we would also have to do we'd have to do surveying, we'd have to do some grading, site work possibly in concrete. So, but I mean, I'm not opposed to that. That was like the one thing that stuck out to me from Marvin Parkway. I thought, well, we
Yeah.
could do benches, but
Because they have a sidewalk isn't it accessible?
there's a sidewalk along
Yeah.
the one side there, and we could certainly look at that. And
Yeah.
But the city could do that too. You're saying, let the city own this because there's not too much we can do. So the city could put in park bench.
that's essentially what I'm saying. And oh, Gail, did you have something to say?
No, I'm agreeing with what Commissioner Grau and what you're saying is that there, because of the limitations of us being able to place anything else out here except for maybe benches, that would be something that, the people could approach the city with. And let's let the city own this one and, provide the open space in this neighborhood.
Yeah, and I think that, this is obviously, like I said, was a conversation that, Gail and I had. I think we at any time as the Park District could, hear from the residents, the neighbors over there, the people in that in that neighborhood specifically, or see it for ourselves and say, I'm not so sure that might meet the needs of those, residents over there. We could do our own check-in with them and see, and maybe, approach the city if needed to say, hey, how can we help you maintain this in a way that serves them better or meets their needs better? But as of right now, it's a fresh, new, open park with a lot of green grass.
Well, all right, if a neighbor came to you from the Marvin Parkway and said, hey, can I organize something? Would you be open to that or something? No?
I think the point, Joan,
know.
is it's not our park.
Well.
That we would talk to the city about it.
Yeah.
I think we'd be very open, and the city, I would imagine the city would be open to that as well.
Yeah.
I don't know that for a fact, but we could certainly talk to them about that because I think it would be nice.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's citizens generated or something. Maybe that's what you're looking for, huh?
Yeah, and I did include some, notes there from my conversation with the city engineer about there are varied opinions over there, as there are with any neighborhood, and some people
Right.
Are
Not in my backyard, yeah.
right,
I
not
saw
my
that,
backyard.
yeah,
And some
yeah.
people say, please
yard.
put the new fitness center in that parkway. So there's a whole very different opinions on those things. But so
Okay, well,
So-
all right, citizens of Marvin Parkway, are you listening?
Right. So I was one of those that had a conversation with you early on in this process, and I'm a little, I guess I'm disappointed that in that nothing can be done. But I really appreciate that you're not trying to make a square peg fit in a round hole, and that you looked at it honestly, and tried to figure out what could go there. And it sounds like to me that we wouldn't be able to do anything in the short run that the city isn't already doing now. We certainly could approach the city and make a suggestion, or people in the community can make a suggestion to the city to put benches in or whatever they want. And of course, we could always revisit this if some epiphany comes along and says we can do this. Then we could reapproach the city. But it seems to me, I agree with you 100% that there's no point in making any kind of agreement with the city to take, because all that would do is increase our expenses for something that
Exactly.
the city's already doing. So I do want to say I appreciate that all the work that went into that, and I appreciate that you could go down a path and ultimately come to a conclusion that like we don't have to have this. You know, sometimes people get into an idea of like, oh, I need to buy this house because I love the kitchen, and then you find out you can't afford it. And that's the kind of thing here. So I appreciate that very much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other comments on this one? All right. Now we will turn to a real pickle. Woodland Park. Huh? Oh, that was unintentional.
So yeah, I do have, unfortunately, it's bad news in this memo here about Woodland. And so I guess what I want to start off by identifying, what I was trying to identify with this memo was that, you know, there were already some delays that were ongoing, and we were kind of working towards the, you know, approval of that based on some weather challenges. I think, you know, the contractor has been out there, you know, working when he can over the past several months, and even more recently, he really has been definitely more in a partnership with us than I think when we first started on this, when we were first hitting some of these challenges, because he's very interested also in completing this project and moving on to other things that he has on his list of things to do. So, I don't think that, you know, I think the initial part of this, we had some, you know, some issues. We had some delays based on, you know, COVID permitting, all those other things. We worked through those. We came up with some, you know, change orders that, you know, a lot of was covered, you know, by our architect and engineer due to some delays. But then we found ourselves in a situation where we had to look back on some conversations that we had talked about with relation to weather. And, you know, the reality was that the weather this, you know, March and April and early part of May was a little more wet than usual. It was a little bit, you know, harder to work with. And, you know, he could have worked through the mud and just said, yeah, I'm out there doing everything I can. But that would have caused us additional issues down the road for soil stability and other problems. So we were kind of working through all that. And then we started to uncover these, you know, clay pipes that don't exist on any map anywhere. The city's standing there looking at them with us going, I have no idea where that is, where it came from, what it's doing there. We know nothing about it. We have, as of yesterday, had the contractor on site to look at what's going on and visualize it himself so that he can continue the path forward and help us with the identification and mapping of these clay pipes so we can find a resolution. He did identify, he said, those are about the oldest pipes I've seen, that style. Those are easily 100 years plus old. He says when they first started making those types of, you know, pipes and using those around here, that's what they looked like. So they're old. I mean, they're not on anyone's radar. So we are going to be, the contractor has, you know, remobilized a few pieces of equipment that he's bringing out to help this specialist with identifying the locations of this pipe. We're going to be, you know, tracing it and feeding it, and we're going to have to dig a couple of what we call, you know, potholes to kind of verify that it's where we think it is very carefully, to try to map this out and find a resolution on how we're going to go forward and deal with it, and have our conversations, quite honestly, with the city and MWRD to say, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to patch this up. We're going to get the water moving on, and we're all going to get on with this project now and post haste. So it's an unfortunate delay. You know, we've had conversations. In fact, this contractor, Team Real at Woodland, was the one that first made me aware, Jennifer and I, aware of the strike that's ongoing. Quite honestly, this project will be slowing down for that anyway. So, you know, we're going to take this time and do these studies, and then hopefully that strike will be resolved, and then we'll be ready to move forward. So, but, you know, these are just some things that come up. We do tend to find things when we're in the ground. Unfortunately, that's where we have the biggest risk on these projects, and we're always happy when we're above ground. And we thought we were getting close to that, and we were getting close to that, but unfortunately, we found one more thing as we were wrapping this part of it up. So we're doing the best we can with it. We don't have a date certain right now. We do expect it'll be, later than the August 26th that was requested, because that was just to cover the, change that they had for the weather. Now we're working through this project, so realistically, we could anticipate another 3 to 4 weeks on top of that, should everything continue to move along and should the strike resolve itself during that time frame. So that's the bad news. I'd be happy to answer any questions about that or anything else. We have been working with Margaret. I'm not sure, did we post or send out anything yet on this? Okay, so we have, updated the neighbors on this and are making it available so the public has full understanding. Jennifer, our project manager, has received a couple of calls on this one over the last few days, which is what, led us to say we need to get something posted, so.
And will that be like some sort of release to the general public or just to the people in that area? Because I actually recently had a member of the public that I know approached me about Woodland and had a lot of questions, and I didn't have all the answers, and I don't know how, I know she lives near there, but I don't know how near, and so I was just wondering, would this be something that you'll put on our website and we can easily direct people? Okay, great. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
was approached about the same thing, and there's a certain amount of concern by citizens. But Terry, I got to say, this memo really explains it really clearly. Just reading through this, it gives the depth and the history of what this has gone through. And I think if anybody's concerned, this really explains it. And I think the word substage, I'm not sure if I've ever understood what that is, but now I have a better understanding. So
thank you. Put a lot of time into that.
What was this property used for before it was a park? I feel like we talked about it earlier.
I don't know that for certain. I have heard that I heard that it was at one point a farm many years ago. But that's all
Okay.
I don't know for certain, but I do understand. And we've seen other things that when we were excavating, we saw some other foundations that we believe to be old farm buildings and things like that. So.
Okay, thanks. All right. Anything last call for buildings and grounds?
I was just going to chime in from above here. I think that this has been a very challenging, disappointing situation. I agree with the memo, and I think we'll probably link that onto the website. I think that would be a good idea for anybody that wants to, get a full explanation, because it is quite intricate and confusing, and you can point people to that as well. That's all.
You may have missed, because Margaret doesn't have a microphone, but she explained that it's already on the website. So.
Oh.
But. Yep.
I did miss that. See, look at everybody's one step ahead of me. Look at that.
Thanks, Gail.
Yep.
All righty. Well, then I will turn it over to Commissioner Tunnel to talk about all of the policies he has in his brain now that he's the policy man.
At this time, I have not prepared my report, so I will yield the floor to Intergovernmental Commissioner Bindi.
All right, so I saw that we had some very positive communications and correspondence in the packet, and thank you for including that, especially after reading the Woodland memo. It was nice to have a little pick-me-up.
Sure.
With those nice letters from various preschool parents. Does anybody have any new business? All right. Well, seeing that, I move to adjourn to closed session for the purpose of discussing land acquisition per 2C5. We will reconvene to open session to take action, if any, on the item discussed in closed session. May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Grau,
Yes.
Commissioner Hulting,
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnel,
Yes.
Commissioner Bendy?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne?
Yes.
Commissioner Leduc?
Yes. All right, so now I'd like to reconvene the regular board meeting of the Park Ridge Park District of Park Commissioners. It is still Thursday, June 16th, and the time is approximately 9:57. There's no action. Any final comments? Hearing none, I move to adjourn the meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? That passes.